Okay guys, let's try to make sense of all of these names here on Windows. So let's start with Terminal Emulator and isolate these two because they all fall into this category and it's very important to understand the difference. So let's start with the difference between these two first and then we can go from there because it's going to be much more clear to understand what is a shell. So a terminal emulator, let's put this way, is just a way for you to have a window to emulate or to allow you to embed a command line. A command line could be anything, but it's usually you run that in a shell, right? So you use a shell to run a command line. So let's just get that right. So let's bring up an example here. So this is a Windows console, right? So you can see here that I'm running command prompt here. So this is all times. This is how you usually do it. And Windows console is still available. So you can run, let's say, BAT or BAT, or whatever you want to call it, scripts. So this is the old way of doing that. It's not recommended by Microsoft anymore. But as another option here, let's say, we have this newest one, which is Windows Powershell, right? So you see here the window. Let's focus in the terminal emulator. So the terminal emulator is the same. So we are using Windows console. You can tell from the difference from the window here. You see the nav bar, and they are all within the same window or the same terminal emulator. Uh, I could even spin up, let's say, PowerShell. Here, PowerShell core. So this is the newest one. And it's also running on the terminal emulator Windows host, right? As you can see the difference when I open the Windows terminal. So this is the newest one, and it's the recommended way. You can see here the tab. So it allows your tabs. It has some modern features. You can change the appearance. If you go to settings, you have access to a bunch of different settings, colors, and hotkeys. So that's pretty exciting, and it's the recommended way. But Microsoft is asking you guys to move on to. You can see here that I'm running Windows PowerShell, which is the same as this one here. So these two are running the same thing, the same shell, but they are using a different terminal emulator. So the window that hosts them is different. So that's the main difference uh, on what a Windows host is or terminal emulator, right? So that's that. And Windows terminal is open source, so you can always contribute. So here's a bunch of instructions, and I'm sure you're gonna find anything that you need in here if you ever need to. So that's that. Another thing is important to know is about shell. So shell, we have three different shells, Windows related. So we have command prompt, which is the one that I showed you before. So this is the command prompt. It's where you usually run BAT scripts or BAT scripts. And it's old, it's not recommended anymore, right? So it was used to automate IT operations. That's true also for Windows PowerShell in PowerShell Core. It's less, but it's also used for that. Why is it less? Let's talk about what is Windows PowerShell. Windows PowerShell ships with Microsoft's operating system, which means if you have, let's say, Windows 10 here, Windows 10 will always have support to Windows PowerShell 5.1. We can see that from here. So if I go here and check for the version, so you can see here that I'm running 5.1. So companies will use this, will probably use this to automate all of their operations, their IT operations, because as long as they still have Windows 10, they will always have access to this 5.1 and they're still going to have access to support. Why is that important? It's because Powershell uses a different life cycle, support life cycle. Let me see if I can bring up here. So here, we go here. Yeah. So Microsoft PowerShell, you see that they use this, how they call it, modern lifecycle policy. So if you develop your scripts using 7.2, you can see that it's going to end in 1 year and 6 months from now. And you're going to need to move on to 7.3 if you still want to have access to support. And that's very important for companies. So you always need to have that in mind. And here you can see 5.1 is for Windows 10, and every new Windows, they're gonna push this forward, but not necessarily to PowerShell Core. That's up to Microsoft to decide. There is no indication of that yet. And so going back to here, what's the use, right? It's recommended to use Windows Terminal with PowerShell Core for new applications. So that's what Microsoft's going to push forward, as you have a good reason not to do that, which is what you just mentioned, like an enterprise that needs automation on top of some a static Windows operating system. And other than that, I believe everyone should use this Windows Terminal with PowerShell Core, as Microsoft recommends. There are other alternatives, which I'm not going to cover here, but you can see here. So this is another terminal emulator. So this is cross-platform and it allows you to run PowerShell or any other shell for that matter, and a lot of customization. So everything that you adjust the settings here, key bindings, hotkeys, they're gonna work seamlessly on every operating system, Linux, Mac, and that's it. So, but that's for another video. Let me know if you want to know more about that one. So that one was Terminal. So you can check out their GitHub here. Yeah, so that's it for today. I hope it's clear enough what is the difference between command prompt, Windows PowerShell, and PowerShell Core as in a shell, and the evolution all over the years, and why they still exist side by side despite the differences, and also what is a terminal emulator, Windows Terminal versus Windows Console. I hope that's also clear. Let me know in the comments if you need anything else, or if it's not clear enough. Until then, see you guys.